Welcome, Michael J. Lawrence, CEO and founder of Bloqworks. A pleasure to have you here and to have you speaking at the Future Blockchain Summit on December the 6th to the 9th at Dubai World Trade Center.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
So I want to get to know you a little bit and your company and how you came about founding it and what it aims to solve.
Okay. Well, I'm as you mentioned, I'm the CEO, and I also run another company in Dubai called Insite, which is a project management company. I'm a construction guy. I've been in the industry now for perhaps too long, nearly 40 years probably, and so I'm very familiar with the problems of construction, and my interest in blockchain technology was sparked at a conference I went to, which was a lawyers' conference, where they were talking about the potential for smart contracts and blockchain technology. So I thought, what is this? Like most people, I suppose, a few years back, I read about it, and I got sort of drawn in down the rabbit hole, as it were. And I then did a short course at Oxford University on blockchain technology and business, which is a distance learning course, which is an excellent course to learn more about the technology and the business application of it. And then I started to think about the application within the construction industry and started Bloqwork off the back of that.
So what is the application of blockchain in construction? I imagine it's an industry where you have to improvise quite a few times and think on your feet.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering with blockchain how you register the different logistical aspects of construction.
Yeah. Well, there are some unique challenges with construction. It is an industry which is very fragmented. There's a lot of players. Generally, worldwide, it's the lowest cost wins, which means that people are pricing at the lowest possible price, and which means they tend to forget about the problems they've had on the last project. Then, with all of these multiple stakeholders within the project, you then have issues of them trusting each other, which is because of the social construct of construction. You get changes driven by the employer. You get issues of it's a very unsafe industry, so there's lots of problems with safety, and there's a problem with the coordination of the various parties, and this ultimately leads to a very high incidence of disputes in the industry. It's very a lot of litigation and so on. So the result of all of this social construct, unfortunately, means that the industry becomes very conservative. People don't really want to change very much. They want to work with the same people they've always worked with before, because everything else has changed. The designs changed, the sites changed, the soil conditions, different type of building, everything's changed. And when everything's continuously changing from one project to the next with lots of stakeholders, people cling to what they know, and they with construction, it's quite unique to see teams of people moving from one company, one site to another, from one project to another. So this is the background that you're dealing with construction.
So how does Bloqwork solve this?
Well, one of the solutions to all of these problems is about dealing with communication and data. Ultimately, to try and record what is happening, which might be from the point of view of a dispute, or it might be from the point of view of sustainability, where you need to trace an element from the factory into the building and know what the carbon footprint is. It's also from the point of view for safety, for example, when you have a fire door, a fire door is not just the door itself. There's the frame, and there's everything that goes with it. So it's a number of components which come together, which are certified then that all of that construction will be 1 hour, for example. So all of these different aspects of construction rely on data between parties transferred from one party to the other, and so that you can either trace the provenance of materials, or find out who did what when in order to look at a dispute situation, or just simply to pay them, because in order to pay a person, they're paid on productivity and what's been done, and what they should have done and what they've actually done. So with all of this data, what happens in construction is a huge amount of data required, and as I say, it's a quite conservative industry. It's not very well digitalized at the moment. And how do you deal with all of this data? Now, what is happening in the industry at the moment is there's a growth of IT platforms. These platforms are usually cloud-based. They're offered by some of the big vendors to try and resolve this problem, whereby you have a platform provided by a company with everything off in a data center, and they put that onto your project, and they say, okay, now everybody on the project has to work through this platform and record everything that goes on. That is a big help and a big advance, and it is catching on, very much throughout the industry. But you have an issue there if it's with a single supplier who's supplying an actual, single platform, because somebody has to pay for it, somebody has to supply it. That's usually the employer of the client. He's normally the one who's procuring it on the project, and he puts his platform on. Then what does that mean is that then the contractor and the subcontractors have to then work through that and put their data and exchange their data on something which is supplied by somebody ultimately perhaps they're going to be in dispute with, or there's an issue there. Occasionally what happens is that what would happen is that the employer might give it to the contractor. He might say to the contractor, look, please, when you bid this job, include for this platform, which we're going to use to manage the data on our project. So then the contractor goes off, gets his price, includes it with his bid, it's in the conditions of contract, and the contractor's then supplying it, which then leaves the employer in the position of, what happens if the contractor doesn't pay the supplier? What happens? And I've unfortunately been in situations where the platform's been switched off. I'm a stakeholder in the project as a project manager. It's switched off because there's somebody who's supplying the platform's not, they've got a framework agreement on all their projects, so they're renegotiating, and in the meantime, the supplier switches it off. So you have, in a nutshell, an issue where this data is in the hands of one of the stakeholders, one of the most powerful stakeholders on the project. That's blockchain technology resolves that issue, because if Bloqwork, if we provide a platform, what we're actually providing is a means for people to be able to record data in a trusted and time-stamped manner from one party to the other. But we're not, we're not in control of that data. Each party is in control of that data. So that's that is the premise of what we're trying to do.
So if it is blockchain-based, do I understand correctly? Once somebody enters data into the system, it needs to be verified by other parties.
Yeah.
In a construction context. How is that possible? And wouldn't it require a lot more work to manage the data that you're safeguarding?
Yeah. No, I mean, we would, the service we're looking to provide is basically to manage that data interface with a blockchain. So to provide a platform through what we're looking at is the IBM Hyperledger Fabric, which is a private permissioned blockchain, which is also the basis for many people like Maersk with TradeLens and Walmart in the US with their provenance of material. So it's a permissioned system. And then what we would then be providing to the end user is an interface which would hopefully be fairly familiar with them in terms of exchange of information and data. And they would not really. There are some changes in behaviour, some changes in the way that a block works. A blockchain system works as opposed to a normal platform. But the idea is to make that as user friendly as possible in terms of the identity of the person, which becomes very important on this type of platform, because you need to know that the person giving or receiving an instruction or sending the drawings is the person who says he is. So there are some changes around ensuring that with wallets and so on. But other than that, the interface should be hopefully fairly familiar in terms of exchange of information.
And how about changing information that has been incorrectly inserted?
Well, the way when you look at platforms at the moment, cloud-based platforms, what they all say is you don't want to change anything, and of course with append-only blockchain-based systems, that's not possible. You can't change anything. So what you can do is you can update the information, so if a drawing is wrong and somebody picks it up and it's incorrect, then you supersede it and you issue a new one. And it's important with construction that when a mistake's been made, that it's not superseded and hidden away. It has to remain within the system so that we can track what went wrong, when, and why it went wrong, and etc. So we don't want to hide any mistakes. Mistakes are made. We want to record them in the chain of information.
So Bloqwork, is that a completely new ERP system, or is it an add-on to existing ERP systems? What is your vision?
The vision is that I have a partner who actually provides a cloud-based platform at the moment, and the idea is to integrate that with a blockchain, with the Hyperledger Fabric, to make it into a solution which is recorded on the blockchain rather than just a normal cloud-based system. Now, one of the issues with construction is the size of data, or the amount of data you have, and blockchains can only record efficiently small amounts of data. So if you take, for example, the issuance of a drawing, drawing files are quite big, and what you want to be able to do is what you end up doing is a kind of a hybrid solution whereby you don't eliminate the cloud-based data center solution completely. You need to be able to record some data on that, but what you need the blockchain to do is to timestamp the transaction and link back to that data, such that you have a a record, immutable record of what happened and when that drawing was issued and who it went from this person to this person, etc. So the blockchain is not, there's a lot of hype around it, and there's a lot, it's going to solve the world's problems and all of this sort of thing. It's a tool really to record data from one person to another and ensure that record is then accessible, so that you can go back and look at it. There are also additional uses which will come later from having a blockchain-based solution. Other advantages, but what we're trying to do in the first instance is to introduce something which is not vastly different from the way that things are done at the moment with a cloud-based solution. Mm-hmm. And this comes back to the problem I said to you before. It's a very conservative industry. Okay, this technology, in conjunction with other technologies, is capable of a lot more things, and we have the technology and it's available now, and it could be done now. But the social construct of construction and where construction is today in 2020 means that if you go out and you try and apply that, people will not be interested. I'll give you an example with payments, for example. Once you have a system in place whereby everybody is interacting through a blockchain-based solution, from the suppliers to the subcontractor to the contractor and the employer and all of the consultants, everybody's working through the system. If you link that then to data on site, either simple data fed back from people or by use of the Internet of Things, you can record production and what productivity, who's on site when, and what's done when. You can then automate through smart contracts payments, and there are people looking at this solution now, whereby the employer, in theory, could then pay automatically down the supply chain within a matter of minutes. He could make a payment through smart contracts and through oracles saying what's done where and who's done what. The whole supply chain could be paid in a matter of minutes. That will come one day. But the reality of the industry at the moment is that the contractor makes money through cash flow. He gets an advance payment issued to him. He holds on to that. He chases for his payment. He holds off paying his subcontractors as long as possible. The subcontractors do the same thing with their suppliers. And there is a whole industry at the moment that doesn't have any interest in paying people quickly. So if I go ahead and I try and sell that and I put that on a platform and go out there, there's not that many people going to be interested in it unless it's linked to the whole change of the industry, which has to change. I mean, the industry has to change. It can be a part of that.
But do you think, as complex as construction projects are, especially here in the Middle East, and to such a great extent, it is a social endeavor, social relationships that make it possible, and you sort of want to take that and make it formalized, you could say. Yeah. Of course, there are advantages with that, but there needs to be a balance, I suppose, in how the projects are done. I mean, you've spent your career in project management. But management of the data is key. Digitalization is coming into construction. There's been a huge shift recently, particularly with 3D modeling, BIM,
to represent the project in 3D and convert that into drawings, and to use 3D models and visualization of the design, and walk through the design and walk through the model and so on. So that people are interested in this sort of thing, and the platform to exchange data is not in itself a new thing. I mean, what we're trying to do is just increment that by going a little bit further and say, and so what is the advantage of that to the employer and the contractor and whatever? Well, everybody will pay for their own data. They won't be paying at the moment. You won't have this situation where either the employer or the contractor is paying for everybody's data on the project, and effectively probably legally owns that data as well. So it's you're getting around that issue to start with, and then off the back of it, other things will come in terms of smart contracts, and I believe the real driver in construction is not going to be blockchain. It's not, we're just a very small part of the change that's coming. The real change in construction is going to come about through the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence and off-site fabrication, more off-site and more standardization, combined with 3D printing and these sorts of things. So all of these things combined together are going to be what drives the changes in construction, and ultimately they will drive the changes in the social setup of construction.
So what is the timeline for the rollout of Bloqwork?
Well, at the moment, what we've done is I've got a company which has been running through. We've got a proof of concept set out. So we are in negotiations with a client organisation to get the platform trialled on a project and try and see what the teething problems are and so on with that. So I would expect that to take us in towards the end of next year before we start to have a beta model which should be readily available to everybody to sort of to try it out. So I would anticipate that we're probably about a year away to getting something out to people.
That's very soon. And what will you be talking about at the conference?
Well, at the conference, I think the first thing will be to look in particular at the issues in the industry, and then I'll be taking through my vision as to how we can resolve that and take that forward with Bloqwork, and a little bit more nuts and bolts about how we see it working.
Look forward to that. Any last comments?
No, thank you very much, and I look forward to the conference. It'll be good to finally come to a physical conference. The first one I've been to, I've been so many online.
Really looking forward to going back to live in person.
Yeah, live in person and a little bit different to normal, but we'll see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much.